Welcome back to Kennedy Space Center and our second day, where we find out more about NASA's plans for going to the Moon and Mars. We also look at the Space Shuttle Atlantis, a memorial to those astronauts that have given their lives in the pursuit of space. We enjoy a presentation on what it's like to be a cosmonaut, so come along with us. So we're back again, and this is our second day. Day two.
Yeah.
And we're going to see some of the sites that we didn't see yesterday.
Only the two IMAX theatres, aren't we, today?
Yes. Well, I think it's two different showings in the same IMAX theatre, but still. Anyway, we'll find that out.
Yeah.
Birds are a bit noisy today.
Going to be a high of 28 or 29.
Yeah. So it's going to be
Getting hot.
Anyway, let's take you along with us.
See what happens.
Found it much easier to get to the Kennedy Space Center today. No detours into Home Depot en route, as we now knew our way. We were coming in on our second day of our 2-day pass, and that was an extra $14 over and above the standard 1-day pass. The IMAX theatre is in the middle of the Kennedy Space Center. There were two performances of different films, Deep Sky and Space, The New Frontier, each film being around 40 minutes long and shown on an hourly basis as detailed in the daily schedule. We were early, so we were held until they opened the doors and let us in. There was also a film immediately preceding the main film, and in one case it was How to Make a Pizza in Space. But let's see Deep Sky, the IMAX theatre.
Until it started looking for them.
Good and interesting things that move us forward as a species.
But in 1609, the astronomer Galileo raised his homemade telescope to the sky and found evidence supporting the idea that we're actually going around the sun. A spiral of 200 billion stars, so big it takes light 100,000 years to cross it. It must be completely shielded from the sun, and that was a whole different kind of problem. But then, exoplanets, planets around other stars, were discovered.
I watched the launch from my mom's couch in Bee Branch, Arkansas.
The telescope now turns its golden eye to a tiny sliver of the sky. The detector's collecting light from the distant universe. The brightest galaxies are part of a cluster 4 billion light years away. The light we see from them took 4 billion years to reach us.
This one's part of our story. This is how stars are being born. Our sun came from something like that, about 4.5 billion years ago.
Uranus, the only planet in our solar system, tilted 90 degrees on its side. Astronomers think this may be from a collision with another object in the distant past. It's still the only place we know there is life. The atmosphere of our world, with its delicate mix of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
And then it's time to leave by the back door. So we've just come out of the IMAX theatre for the production of the film Deep Sky, which was a look at the James Webb Space Telescope. Absolutely incredible film with some really superb images. It actually really made one think about whether or not there are other alien life forms in this planet. Not in this planet, in this universe, or not. Basically, the James Webb Space Telescope further takes the capability of the world's largest telescope, the Hubble telescope, and takes it to a new level. It allows you to see a lot more detail at a lot further distances and therefore a lot further back in time than the Hubble telescope was previously able to do. It really got one thinking. It looked back 12 billion years ago, and it was picking up infrared light and light that showed how stars were created, how they died, how galaxies existed, and it posed a lot of questions about whether or not there was an alien life here or not. Really enjoyed it. It was very searching and very thinking. We then re-entered the theatre to see Space, the New Frontier, the second IMAX show.
And the human body to enrich our everyday life with their innovations. Together, they are embarking on new and evolved missions to low Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Is that at the limit of all that is possible, there remains more to be found in the realm.
This is the test flight system, but it is the step on the way to us building our orbital capability. It is a 1/3 scale version of the orbital system.
Inside is a giant electric-powered motor that spins its payload into the atmosphere at 5,000 miles per hour.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release. Our next step is to go build one 3 times bigger, point it towards space, and beginning launching satellites 5-10 times a day, and really building the future of a low-cost space industry.
To land a rocket is a manufacturing and engineering marvel. There's almost no room for error.
It is incredibly exciting flying with SpaceX and having the privilege to fly on a new Crew Dragon. I feel like getting to fly to space is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
My last spacewalk was in 2007, and I miss it.
This evolving relationship between NASA and private companies brings new opportunities for hundreds of countries and companies seeking new knowledge, profit, and adventure.
In this lab space, we are designing robots for use on the lunar surface and eventually on Mars.
And there will soon be millions of pieces of junk satellites and discarded pieces floating in Earth's low orbit. Built in collaboration with over 1,000 different companies, Artemis 1 is making its way from the vehicle assembly building to the launch pad.
And now we're taking the next leg of this relay race, and we're focused on the moon. But then eventually this mission is going to hand that baton off on this relay race to Mars.
So we've just been in our second IMAX experience, which was Space, the New Frontier. That was absolutely fascinating because it dealt with a lot of the research that's being done by private companies looking at the future of space travel, from 3D printed rockets using new propulsion mechanisms, spinning them into space, the creation of a private sector space station, and also a number of the near future innovations.
I mean, I didn't realise they're actually going to land people on the moon. There's called Artemis, and one of the spaceships has already gone up to, what was that one going to do?
So Artemis 1
Which is
a test flight to show the propulsion mechanisms and make sure that they all work. Artemis 2
I think is going
will
up in
take
February
crew and
to go around the
moon. Round the moon.
And
Artemis 3
will land on the moon. They're going to land on the moon. Which is
and then I
fascinating.
think Artemis 4 is to build a space station that will orbit the moon.
Yep.
And then they've got future plans to basically create a civilization on the moon as a stepping stone to exploring
It's going to be a bit
Mars.
like that series To All Mankind, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. It gives you a real sense of the future, which before we came here, I didn't know that man was going to go back to the moon. I assumed that...
No, we've only found that out since we've been here, haven't we?
Yeah, 2012, the space shuttle was retired, and now NASA and private enterprise are creating a new way forward.
About time.
It's interesting, it's fascinating.
Very hot here.
Anyway, with that said, we will now grab ourselves some lunch.
I need a drink, I think. I need some water.
You need to grow, I think.
Why don't you shrink a bit? Right.
This is one of those areas that I've been dying to get into. It's Atlantis. This exhibition is primarily focused on man's flight to the moon, and the star of the show is the space shuttle Atlantis, which was last launched in July 2011 and was then transported to the Kennedy Visitors Centre, where it went on display in June 2013. Pre-show set the historical context and challenges that led up to the space shuttle.
Now it's time to go to the next step. Sketch pad to launch pad.
12 years. How do you feel?
I'll let you know.
These were an immensely immersive media experience using animation, archive footage, reenactments and special effects combined with music to really set the scene for what you're about to see. Then theatrically the doors open and you immediately see the space shuttle Atlantis, not a model but the real thing. The pre-show was tremendous at getting you emotionally invested in the space shuttle program. It really did enhance the overall experience. When you actually see the space shuttle Atlantis for the first time, you appreciate what it represents, what the program achieved, and that you're looking at the last space shuttle to fly. You appreciate its size and scale, its massive cargo payload, and the engineering feats that were necessary to create it. I love that no attempt appeared to be made to spruce it up, its tiles indelibly marked by the history of its space flights. Atlantis truly dominates the space, hanging on the second floor. Around it are a number of other stands that contribute to the story. This one looks at the shuttle's main engines and the considerations that went into making sure that it could withstand the £500,000 worth of thrust. It's also incredible to think that both the ship's hangar bay doors and the movable arm are totally unusable on Earth, as the structures cannot support their own weight. However, in space it's a completely different matter, and in zero gravity they function as required. They have been engineered precisely to the environment in which they're being used, avoiding unnecessary complexity and weight. So this is a model of the Hubble Space Telescope. Looks incredible. Launched in April 1990 from the cargo bay of the Space Shuttle Discovery, its final service mission was performed by Atlantis in May 2009. Columns detailed the various missions to both launch and service the Hubble telescope. This exhibit went through spacewalks where astronauts work outside of their spacecraft while still in space. These are risky and are performed for specific reasons, such as science experiments on the outside of a spacecraft, letting scientists know how being in space affects different things. Spacewalks also let astronauts test new equipment or effect repairs, such as those on satellites, the Hubble telescope, or spacecraft that are in space that are time dependent or where fixing on Earth would not be feasible. This was a fun exhibit. It allowed the kid in us to probe, prod and press the buttons on a mock space shuttle deck and imagine that they were flying this unique machine. Another one for the kids. This one is a mock-up of the space station with its clear tubes and being suspended from the second floor. You have to have a good head for heights. If you were a child, you could descend from the second floor to the first floor via a slide. I did fancy having a go myself, but thought it was probably a bit undignified. However, us adults, we made our way down a gentle slope lined with the 33 badges and patches that celebrated the missions of 26 years of operational service for the Space Shuttle Atlantis. I really loved this Astrovan's iconic design. It was used to transport astronauts from the operations and checkout building to the launch pad, both before their missions, and it also brought them back after landing. This was a custom van built by Airstream and was in service for every mission from 1983 through to the final flight for the shuttle in July 2011. You also get the chance to operate robotic arms, or undertake a docking, or land an orbiter, just like an astronaut. There's also a wall that commemorates the countries that collaborated on the International Space Station. Visitors are also given the opportunity to appreciate what life in space on board the International Space Station was like. You can see how the astronauts slept, ate, worked, exercised and functioned. The forever remembered exhibit serves as a tribute to the 14 astronauts who lost their lives in the Challenger and Columbia Space Shuttle tragedies. The memorial includes recovered components from both spacecrafts, such as a portion of the Challenger fuselage and the structural framework of Columbia's cockpit windows, as well as thoughts from political figures. I thought that the human side of the tragedies was poignantly brought home in the memorial glass display cases that line the walls, containing personal belongings and mementos of each of the deceased crew members. The shuttle launch experience simulates the sensation of a space shuttle liftoff using advanced technologies like special effects and motion-based platforms to immerse the visitor in the thrill of the launch. Of course, you exit through the ubiquitous gift shop. This is the Space Mirror Memorial. It honours the lives of the men and the women who have died while serving in various US space programs. In addition to 20 NASA career astronauts, it commemorates a US Air Force test pilot, an Air Force officer who died during training, a civilian participant who lost their lives in the Challenger disaster, an Israeli astronaut who perished in the Columbia tragedy, and a private astronaut. As going forward, the memorial will recognise the significant contributions of private spaceflight crew members to the American space program. At the heart of the memorial is the Space Mirror, a polished black granite surface consisting of 90 individual panels. The names of the 25 fallen astronauts are etched completely through the granite, which is then filled with translucent acrylic. The names are grouped by incident and are backlit with LED lights which appear to glow against the reflective surface, almost as if it was floating in the sky. Originally, the memorial featured a solar tracking system that followed the sun across the sky, using parabolic reflectors to direct natural light through the names. However, the tracking mechanism failed over 25 years ago and has not been restored. Today, floodlights have been repositioned and now remain on around the clock to ensure the names stay continuously illuminated. This Google fountain is known as the Constellation Sphere. There's a water feature where a 6-ton sphere sits in a fitted hollow in a pedestal. The sphere doesn't float as it's denser than water, but instead it's supported by aquaplaning on a very thin film of that water. In Journey to Mars, you begin by entering the theatre, where interactive games challenge your knowledge of deep space. You'll also learn about NASA's plans for exploring deep space destinations like Mars, asteroids, and a return to the Moon. This multimedia exhibit showcases ongoing NASA missions.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We don't call an official liftoff until the bottom of the rocket passes the top of the gantry. That's your official liftoff point. Next is our closest celestial neighbor, the Moon. The last time we were there was 1972. There's still so much left to explore. You might want to visit an asteroid. How cool would something like that be? And then there's Mars.
Right now, I have no idea how we're going to do that, but we will.
Yep.
And while you're doing all this, you might answer questions like, is there life out there?
Are we alone?
Are we alone?
Are we alone?
So, We now understand the challenges of travelling to Mars and the importance of creative thinkers and problem solvers in making these missions possible. You can then go to one side and explore detailed replicas of various Mars exploration rovers. So this is the InSight Mars lander, which was launched in May 2018.
Quite fragile, don't they?
He is from Jacksonville, Florida. He is an electrical engineer with bachelor's and master's degrees from Florida State University. Well, welcome to my home state. This afternoon, I'm only going to talk about my fifth flight, which was, as Nick told you, the Russian mission. That may seem a bit disproportionate, but that was 25 days on 4 shuttle flights, but 115 days, 1 week less than 4 months on Russian space station. First of all, I was the cosmonaut researcher, and it was supposed to be a 90-day flight. It was neat because, as you probably know, American Marines are the security for all of the American embassies around the world, and that certainly was true at the Moscow embassy. This is out at Star City. We had 2 simulators out there. One was the Soyuz simulator, because it's actually like 2 training missions you're doing. You're training to ride the capsule on top of the Soyuz rocket to get from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Central Asia, which is their launch site. But then you have to also train even more for what you're going to do when you get to the space station, because it only takes 2 days to get up to the space station when you launch on the Soyuz, but then you're on the space station for over, in my case, 100 days. And this is that Soyuz simulator. Look at this. There must be over 100 people there. Most cases they're photographers and they're press people, but in some cases they're people who take a lot of money to come out there and be at the launch site just before we're going to launch into space. Not probably the smartest thing in the world you could do. I want to point out, you see that white cloud there, that white cloud? That is the vapor plumes off the liquid oxygen tanks. And what that tells you is that rocket is fully filled for launch. Some years before this, a similar rocket blew up on the launch pad and killed over 160 people. And there is the entrance. You can see the ventilation tubes going through the gateway, the hatch there. We're in the core module here, the very end of it, and through there is the Thagard module. At the end of the Thagard module, which, as I said, is the smaller of the 4 modules, was our Soyuz capsule. I got to watch the Spectrum module, as I told you, come up. In fact, I could look out the window, it came up below us because lower orbits, you're going faster, so it came up just below us, and because it was faster, it went out ahead of us, and then came up there, and then docked. And there we are. This was the first time so many people had been in space at one time. There were 10 of us. And this was the flight engineer who was sent up to replace Gennady, my flight engineer. This was the commander who was sent up to replace Volodya, my commander. So they launched with 7 and came back with 8. So maybe there were people here on Earth that thought we were multiplying, but we weren't doing that either. And Volodya and Gennady and I came back on the mid-deck of the shuttle, that's the lower deck, flat on our backs. We landed here at the shuttle landing facility, and you're very close to that. It's just a few miles from where you're seated. And it's a big glider. And it lands at a little over 200 knots, which is pretty fast. The adjustment to weightlessness, well, I don't know that you ever totally adjust to weightlessness. The reason being is ordinary movements that you might make on Earth probably won't work up there. I mean, I'm just standing here, and I'm pushing on that wall. Nothing's happening. In space, I'd be going that way.
Well, that ends another superb day at the Kennedy Space Center. The 2-day pass has certainly allowed us to take a much more relaxed approach to exploring this venue, and there's been a lot to do and take in. While some may have been able to do it in one day, it would have been very rushed, and we do feel that one would have missed out on the whole experience.